Hi, everybody. This is AJ speaking. Today, I want to talk to you about the new Model Y launch in both the United States and Europe. This just happened a few hours ago. Here you can see Tesla's website in the United States. Deliveries start in March. This is in line with China. Here's an example out of Europe. This is an example from Germany. Deliveries also start in March. Example from France, also start of March, and this is example from Belgium, also March. So there will be a huge global Model Y delivery wave in March. This means this year's um, monthly delivery numbers, or in some cases weekly deliveries numbers, and in some other cases even daily delivery numbers out of various countries are basically completely pointless because this major product change globally within the same quarter creates like complete volatility. So I would highly recommend not to take too many clues from any of these delivery numbers. I will provide some reporting on that, but the validity of these numbers will be very, very low because it all depends on the March deliveries, which we will not have a clear picture on um, after Tesla reported them on the 2nd of April. So this year will be probably the most exciting in terms of deliveries it's been in probably years. So that's quite interesting. So if we dive right in, um, I wanted to talk about the key features. I think most of this has been discussed, or pretty much all of it has been discussed on X. Ignore these prices here. So this compares the Model Y with the new one. Interestingly, small detail, Tesla shows a slightly different picture compared to the European website. Um, if you look at the European website, this is what Tesla put there. So you have different uh, wheels, no big deal, just a little detail I noticed. And then, so if we go back to this comparison, so the first main thing is that the new Model Y received 9 miles more range. If you compare it to the relevant outgoing Model Y, which is the long-range all-wheel drive version that had 311 miles, so the new one has, with a similar wheel option, 320 miles. The new one gets ventilated seats, which we know from the new Model 3. The second row has now power two-way folding. Previously, you could only put them down via a button, but had to return them into a normal position manually. So that's a nice little upgrade. The new Model Y gets the 8-screen second row touchscreen that we know from the new Model 3. The new Model Y gets upgraded suspension. That's obviously always great, and improved noise reduction. That is probably primarily driven by enhanced glass used all around in the vehicle. Then the trunk gets now a hands-free power open on approach feature. Um, there is one other thing which I haven't seen on the US website, but we have seen videos out of China. The China the Chinese built Model Y probably also has a powered frunk uh, um, hood, and and we might see it in the US, but right now it seems like the US version is not featuring that new feature. And then in terms of interior, we have seen plenty of pictures of the interior by now. Um, the new Model Y will have the, LED lighting, which is not the same but similar to the new Model 3, which is a nice touch. And then I put this here in gray because people who have mixed feelings about this. The interior also moved away from the wooden detailing and black with black interior to a more aluminum style with premium textiles. And then where audio, the new Model Y received two more speakers. It's also good, should further improve sound quality in the Model Y, which was already very good. And then connectivity, so connectivity touches Wi-Fi signal strength, but also Bluetooth has probably been improved further. This had already been quite good in the outgoing model, but it's nice to see Tesla also kept working on these little details. And then in terms of climate, the the glass has now received a reflective coating. This is good in especially on warmer or sunnier days because it keeps more of the heat out. This will then improve sort of the cooling performance as you get into the car. Overall, also helps to reduce energy consumption. Let's say you drive in a really hot climate for a few hours. The car constantly absorbs radiation from the sun, and this coating helps to keep the temperature um, lower for sorry, it's more easy. It's easier for the air conditioning system to maintain the temperature, and therefore will use less energy. That's a good thing. But in reality, obviously, this will save you a minuscule number of watts relative to how much energy the car requires to move, obviously. And then the second row also gets a power actuated air vents, which is basically the same system that we know out of the new Model 3. And then the feature I'm most excited about is actually down here. We get now for the first time a front-facing camera that sits down here in the lower part of the bumper. It sits in the middle, in the center, at the top end of this black element in the front, in bumper where you have the air vents. And so this is in addition to obviously the main forward-facing cameras, which the Model Y and the Model 3 had for a long, long time. And the reason why I'm so excited about this camera is the following. One, it eliminates any insecurity in when you do parking about how close you are to potentially some objects that you might not fully trust the visual system right now. Or if you have an older Model Y, I mean, ultrasonics are really, really good in the Model Y. Because they have been around for decades in the automotive industry and have been basically almost perfected. And but sometimes there are objects where you feel a little uneasy. Not so much about cars, but if there's like a type of pole, a narrow pole in front of your car where you want to park, um, even ultrasonics can make mistakes. It's very rare, but anyways, if you're someone like me who has to park in very narrow spaces on a relatively frequent basis, you love to have a front-facing camera mounted low because you can then have a visual a checkup on whether the system alerts you properly. Also, sometimes the system is too sensitive; it alerts you too soon, and even though you still have like 3-4 inches of space, which sometimes can make the difference of whether you get into a parking lot or not. So this is a great feature just from pure parking um, perspective. But then there are other more interesting things on top, and this is a camera mounted this low to the ground can much better detect changes in sort of the surface of the road, and therefore you can start think about advanced suspension control. The camera sees a pothole, can measure somewhat accurately the depths or whatever, and can send this information to electronically controlled dampeners, and then you can have like a really great ride adjustment without, and from a shareholder perspective, that's a key point, without having to add expensive hardware. It's just all a software problem at this point. So, and cameras are relatively cheap. So if you mastered vision, it can really help you to add great features to the vehicle without adding a lot of cost. So that's great. And then real quick, I want to talk about sort of the modest range improvement. You get plus 9 miles. I talked about this before. I think the primary reason for the range increase comes from the reduction in top speed, because the reduction in top speed allows Tesla to make meaningful changes to the tire without making it worse. And these changes to the tire improve meaningfully efficiency. And I think this will explain the vast majority of the range increase. But of course, Tesla will have tinkered with a lot of other components, and in some, these smaller changes will also have added to the range increase, would be my expectation. Um, but bottom line, the way I think about range in general, as long as you have a non-LFP battery pack, typically you want to charge the battery to 80% if you don't need a lot of range. So this would be on most cases, on most days, the standard situation. This reduces your range by 62 or 64 miles in the new model. Then this depends on personal preference, but you also want to drive the car's battery too low. One reason is obviously in some people range anxiety, but for other people who want to maximize longevity of the battery, a too low state of charge is also not good for the batteries. You want to limit that. This also takes off some usable range, which gets you in the outgoing long range all-wheel drive Model Y with standard wheels to 202 miles EPA rated range. The new Model Y gets 2.9% more range or 6 miles, so not a huge change, but still some nice little improvement there. Then here a quick look to Europe. Pricing in Europe from country to country changes a bit. Sometimes they have the same price for one trim, but then another trim for whatever reason can be quite different. For example, here in Germany and in other European countries, you can't currently buy the rear-wheel drive version. You can only buy these three versions that are also available in the United States. But compared to the US, in Europe, Tesla continues to show that version, while in the US they removed it from the website. And then you can see the price increases for the new Model Y. Tesla charges €1,000 more over the performance version. So that's quite interesting because the model you want to compare it with, as I said before, is the long range all-wheel drive version. So this is a €6,000 price increase, but we'll look into this in more detail in a second. So let's look at the US pricing. So in the US, I crossed out here the rear-wheel drive version because it's not even shown on the website. And if we look at the pricing, it's a little bit different. The new Model Y costs actually a lot more than even the performance version. You just saw in Europe the Delta is only €1,000, and in the US it's $8,500 relative to the performance, and it's even a lot more than that. So it's basically 11,500 compared to the long range all-wheel drive. So it's a massive price increase. The Tesla is just applying typical what's called skimming price strategy. So basically, this is widely used in all kinds of industries. You basically charge a premium price for a newly introduced product to skim off the increased propensity to pay of certain consumers. Some consumers love to have to be the first to have the latest, newest, shiniest thing, and they're willing to pay up for that. And this is what Tesla is skimming off, just like pretty much every company does, at least every company that can. And when you look at the price ramification, it's really interesting. So this pricing matrix, the way to read it is you look line by line, and it compares the line with what's put here in the column header. So for example, if we look at the new Model Y, long range all-wheel drive, $60,000, and you want to compare it, let's say, to the performance, here's the relative price change, and you can see it's 16.5% more expensive than even the performance version. But if you look at the more relevant comparison, which is actually the long range all-wheel drive outgoing Model Y, it's a wild 25% increase. So this will have some very interesting financial ramifications for the first quarter, which I will cover in my deep dive Tesla report. What's the EPS impact of something like this? Because keep in mind, United States is, after China, the second biggest Model Y market globally. So and the Model Y product line is, amongst all of Tesla's product lines, the by far biggest revenue driver at the moment, and also the biggest gross profit driver. So this is very interesting because, and this is called in the automotive industry, there will be a improvement in mix in 1Q. On top of that, when you compare to the leasing rates, Tesla made sure you want to buy the product and not lease it, because you can see the leasing rate is an increase of 75%. So this clearly signals Tesla is basically telling customers, please buy the product, don't lease it. So this will also be very interesting, because leasing, like if you compare a leasing sale versus an outright sale, in terms of how the financial accounting works, a outright sale just looks much better in the quarter in which the sale took place. So this is also helpful for the mix in the first quarter. And then here I show the same analysis for pricing example out of Europe. Here I use Germany again as example, and you can see that the main difference is that there is much less of a gap between performance and the new Model Y. Here's just 10.9%, sorry, let's call it 11% increase between the long range and the new one, while in the US it's a shocking 25% increase. So this will have ramifications. And then in terms of leasing, Tesla is charging 124% more over the long range all-wheel drive leasing rate. So again, same message. Tesla wants people to buy rather than leasing the vehicle. So this gets us to the end of this video. So overall, I'm quite excited about this product launch. Also, the fact that Tesla is launching this vehicle globally within 1 quarter was one expected due to the significance of this product. You do not want to keep selling a quote unquote stale product that is so important, because the risk that sales tank or you have to give huge discounts is too great. So this was expected. But still great to see is confirmed. Obviously, this creates some risk. Tesla has never done a global simultaneous launch, but ultimately they have changed production previously in all factories. So people working there and running these factories, they have experience with that. And the switch over in China in 2023 to the new Model 3 was highly successful. Lars Mulvaney, VP of Engineering at Tesla, talked about this. Tesla did it in about 2 weeks. So basically, they changed from full-blown Model 3 production to full-blown new Model 3 production in about 2 weeks. And what does 2 weeks mean? It means not starting, but getting back to high daily production rates. It was achieved in 2 weeks, so this is quite impressive. And obviously, Shanghai is a purpose-built factory. I expect similar changeover times in Texas, not so much in Fremont, because Fremont deals with some legacy issue. It's not optimized because it's a plant Tesla took over from an automaker, so it wasn't purpose-built. Obviously, it was modified dramatically over the years, but it's still not on the level of Shanghai, I think. And we saw this kind of playing out when the switchover happened in Fremont to the new Model 3, where there were some delays. Um, and and then of course Berlin obviously also a purpose-built factory. I would also expect switchover time to be relatively short. So overall, pretty exciting times ahead. And with that, see you in the next one. Bye.